Ciso. Oh, it's fabulous! A strike to get you up off your seats.
Hello and welcome to Seagulls Social. This is the Arsenal preview. We have got Arsenal, a nice late kickoff on a Saturday, and we are joined. Jack is back. That is the big announcement. Yeah. And Ben is, I can't do a rhyming one with that, but Ben's not here. So, yeah, it's another show for Ben. But Jack, you are back. First of all, we'll do the obligatories, the standards. You know what you do at work when you're like, how was your Christmas? How was your New Year's? So how was it?
Yeah, fine. I sound like shit.
Big away day in Villa.
Do you know what? I think I just had a beer every day, probably, didn't I? As you do for Christmas.
What's been your favourite beer you've had?
Oh, great question. I've really got into Guinness this Christmas.
So is one of my mates, actually.
But there's a shortage of it.
There is, apparently. Well,
I don't think
I
that's a
actually got to say
coincidence.
something about this, Jack. I've got to say something about this. I was actually in an event not too long ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago, if that. Yeah. And to be fair, it was sponsored by Guinness, but I kid you not, they had Guinnesses racked up on the bar like your heart's desire. There was enough Guinness to go around London in that pub. So someone's lying to you, mate.
Well, look, I think me getting into Guinness and there being a shortage, no coincidence, is it? So
you are the reason for the shortage. But no, good Christmas.
Yeah, good Christmas, happy, fun Yuletide had by all. Lots of football. I watched lots of football. That's what I did.
Yes, I saw you at Whitehawk yesterday as well. Got abandoned, didn't you?
Got abandoned at half time.
Yeah, half time. I saw that.
Went to Cheltenham. That was the new ground. Haven't been there before, so that was really cool. Nice place. Really nice place actually, Cheltenham.
Yeah, I've been to Cheltenham a few times for the races.
Yeah, no, it's a good place. So the nice little football smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord, nice. Well, listen, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got Arsenal at home. And now, first of all, Jack, I wanted to start very quickly with our record against Arsenal is not great. If you can remember our last win at home. Away, we got pretty good. We got a very good record.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
Our last win at home was, of course, that Mopé last minute, 95th minute winner, COVID times. And since then, we haven't had much luck. I think we had a couple of draws maybe dotted around in there. But yeah, all the rest of them, they have come and beat us. Last season, was it 3-0? They beat us at home. So, it's not been great. Does that worry you in terms of our head-to-head record, let alone our current record, which is, I think we haven't won a game in 7. I think it's our worst run since 2021, if my stats are correct. We haven't won in 7. And, of course, Arsenal on the back of 4 wins. So, does that come into play for you come Saturday?
Well, I think Arsenal are a great team, so it's no real shame to have a massive deficit on the home wins. I think I think end of last season, that was like another dire back end of De Zerbi performance where we just weren't very good throughout. I remember losing 4-2 on New Year's Eve. I actually thought we played really well that day from memory. Could have. We were very close to making it 4-3 if it wasn't for some razor thin offside call. And
I think was it Odegaard who was on flames that day.
Yeah. I think Odegaard scored a volley. He looked great. So look, I think we have an okay record against Arsenal, but they're always going to be a tough game. They're one of the biggest clubs in the country, and it pains me to say it.
But on that, Jack, though, they are of course missing Bukayo Saka, which is a massive loss. It looks like he's going to be out for a good 3 to 4 months with a hamstring injury. Then they've got Yuri and Timber suspended and Ben White and Tomiyasu injured. So at right back, that could be a potential spot for us, especially with either Matoma or Dingra out on that left. Do you see that left-hand side maybe being our little way in, maybe?
I mean, I'm not very confident with our team in general at the moment because we're on a bit of a poor run. But look, on their day, Matoma and Adingra can be really good players. Adingra had a positive performance at Aston Villa after I gave him quite a lot of stick on Twitter after the Brentford game, I think.
That's not like you, Jack.
I know. Well, and it wasn't even like meant in a harsh way. I think, why are we dropping Matoma, who on his day is our most quality player, for a player who's yet to perform for us?
I disagree with this. I feel like it was a really good time to drop Matoma because I feel like he played a lot of games and there's times where me and Ben spoke about it in the last pod. We questioned his end product, and we spoke about this. I think when you were on the pod as well about his forward play is second to none. We talked about his first touch. We talked about the ability to take players on. We talked about his intelligence, like all these amazing attributes he's got. But what we question is his finishing and his final pass. Like that's come into question a lot. Whereas Adingra, in my opinion, I would argue Adingra maybe has the better end product, but doesn't have the build-up play that Matoma has.
Yeah, I think there's positives of both. I do think Matoma not having as much end product is more of a symptom of us as a team this season. Like, I don't think
that's fair. Yeah,
the chance creation, the chance finishing, it's not as good as it was, and he was instrumental to the equaliser, really, Matoma. Like, against Villa. So there's I think you're right. Yeah, there's lots that can look into, but we've got a great left-hand side. Just on a separate note. So I'd like
sorry
to
to interrupt.
Yeah,
just quickly talking on the left-hand side, Purvis didn't play against Villa.
No.
What do we know what that was? Because he wasn't even in the squad, was he?
Illness, apparently.
Illness.
So illness, bit of a weird one.
Hopefully he's back for Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully he's back for that. I mean, Igor did fine. I think. Do you know what? All the times we've tried a back three, it hasn't really worked. But I have to say, at Villa, I didn't think it looked too bad. The back three.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So I wouldn't be adverse to starting that again. I think Matoma and Adingra could work much better as a wing back. I think they both have got slight ability to do it. Adingra seemed to be good at pushing on, and maybe Igor drops in as a fullback. So there's lots of options.
I did feel at times Igor did play more of a left back.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think it was almost like a fluid sort of, left back drop in, move to centre back when we're in attack, and then you can sort of. So there are lots of positives to it. I don't think that was the worst. I think Villa was actually a really good performance all round.
Yeah. No, it was really positive. We played your voice note, Jack.
Yeah, good. Oh, good.
Yeah, we did play your voice note saying to be positive. And we were going to be positive regardless of your voice
good.
Note. But we were very positive. But no, I thought in patches, we said it the first 20 minutes, great. The 10 minutes of the first half, towards the end, not great. Then the first 10 minutes of the second half, not great. And then the final 20 minutes, pretty good. So we had it was sort of up and down, a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
You just got to ride it, Jack. So
exactly. And we've got to build. We've got to build from that performance. And it's going to be a hard thing to build from that performance against arguably one of the best teams in the league, who have found a little bit of form again. They were looking a bit now. Yeah, they were looking a bit dodgy. They were looking. I was going like, if this carries on, then you've got to be question marks over Arteta. I even thought. But then they've pulled it out of the bag, and they've got some really, really good results. Even without Saka at times, Brentford, I think, is a team very similar to us, to the point where when we played them the other night, we essentially just cancelled each other out. And they didn't quite smash them last night, but they were pretty decisive, weren't they, at beating them? So it's going to be a tough one either way. It's a hard one to call, to be honest. The optimist in me, like, oh, look, it's Arsenal again. We always seem to beat them in a comedy way, but I don't know. I'm a bit pessimistic about this one.
Okay, so you're not feeling confident in this one?
No.
All right. Well, on that then, my next question is, so we talked about Saka's absence, but I need to pronounce this right. Enwanari? Is that how you say it?
53.
All right, number 53. He's going to be slotting in for Saka.
I can't say his
and then
name.
Martinelli has been on good form as well. I think he's got 3 in 5, maybe. Goals. Martinelli playing quite well. Jesus is even chipping in.
Yeah, I know
as well. Which is interesting. Marino is now sort of in their midfield. And then, defensively, we all know how good they are, especially from set pieces as well. Their set piece coach. Could you see that being a problem for us? Because we're not notoriously good at set pieces, defending them or scoring them.
Set pieces is like a spectre hanging over this football club for like the last
kryptonite
10 years. Like, why don't we score from set pieces? Why don't we defend from set pieces? Why don't we do? It's always something about the set pieces. Yeah. I do think there's I'm sure I read a really interesting stat that actually set pieces don't actually matter really at all. Like, I'm sure teams score something like 2% of all corners. So. On average.
But Arsenal probably have now bucked that trend.
Yeah, definitely. And they're really good at them. And I do think that we do a little bit chaotic in the box. I definitely feel like when we've got Verbruggen starting, he looks a lot better and a lot more assured when it comes to claiming corners. Do you think so? More than our other options.
Okay, that's fair, yeah. Because I'll be real, I think he's looked a bit shaky in the last sort of 5 games.
He has, but I think compared to our other options, we've got for Brighton.
No, of course, yeah. I mean, yeah. What was it? Steele and who's the other guy?
Killian Cahill.
That's it.
I mean, Killian Cahill, we've never really seen it. Yeah, we haven't really seen him. So, yeah, we can't. Well, I have.
I was going to say, you've definitely seen it.
Yeah, I have. I do think he's a good goalkeeper, but I'm not sure if he's Premier League ready yet. But, yeah, so... Can't remember. Oh, yeah, so I think the set piece is going to play a big role, as usual. Yeah. Do you know, it's funny, though, we actually are terrible at scoring from set pieces in the way that we actually attack them a lot. Like, Van Heck and Dunk probably get heads on it every single time, and we do so...
They're big. They're like big, sort of, intimidating centre-backs that can do that.
If that's something we want to improve and get more goals in our game, I definitely think that's something we could be having a look at. I don't know what it is with set-piece coaches. I think it's all a bit of a gimmick, set-piece coaches, like having a particular set-piece coach.
What was the thing
like, just do it as a team.
What did they post the other week about? Something about his, I can't remember what it was, but it was outrageous. It was something they awarded him something or gave him something like to reward him.
They're the mural.
That's it, mural. Oh, mate, honestly, that is woke nonsense. If anything,
yeah. I do think, like, as a whole team, we should just be coaching set pieces. Maybe if you can get a direct coaching for it, but it's all a bit odd. Like, I even noticed us doing it. Someone goes and stands at the touchline ready for Brentford. The Brentford did it, not us. Where someone stands at the touchline ready as soon as a set piece happens, which I all think is a bit odd. So yeah, I don't know. It'll definitely play a part. But look, we're a big team. Hopefully, we can defend against them.
Yeah, fingers crossed. That is my biggest probably worry in terms of from set pieces. I feel like they've been such a big threat this season from set pieces, and we're notoriously not great from set pieces. So yeah, that is one of my biggest worries. But I think the quality of Odegaard in terms of like threats from them, I think it comes from all over the pitch. Interestingly, actually, Declan Rice, I don't know if you noticed, he's actually been dropped past 2 games. He's not played. He's not started, which is quite interesting.
It means he can't get sent off.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Arteta's done it. He's done it in preparation for this game. But it'll be interesting to see how Baleba gets on, because obviously that centre midfield will be interesting. You got Partey, Marino, and Odegaard against Baleba and God knows who it could be. Ayari, maybe. I don't know who he's going to opt for. O'Reilly, Ayari.
Yeah.
Who do you think he'll go for?
Well, yeah, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Because I actually thought, I think we discussed in the West Ham pod about Weaver and Baleba. I really enjoyed that midfield. I thought we played really well like that. And now Weaver's mysteriously injured again, which is just, I don't know.
Yeah, that was really
some of these signings that we brought in, it's just been the story of them all season. And it does feel a bit same old story again, doesn't it? Injuries and I don't know. I think there's probably more to it than just Brighton cursed. And I
saw a stat, Jack. It was we're number 1 in injuries in the Premier League, and I believe it's something like ridiculous, like 380 days worth of injuries. Between the players, which is mental. And
it's huge.
The league.
But we that's consistent. Every season is consistent. Other than arguably the season we got Europe, and which kind of proves if you keep all your players fit, we've got a Europe capable team. And this is what the problem is, season upon season. Now, I'm sure there's probably something more to it. I think it's because the markets we shop in and the reason we get a lot of these players is because they are injury risk.
Got a history of it, yeah.
And that's why we're getting them, because ultimately, I think João Pedro is a great example. If João Pedro didn't have an interesting injury record, he'd currently be a Newcastle player because he failed a medical up there. So, So I do think that is part of the model, and we've got to get used to that. And maybe that's why we've gone with the big squad this season. I do think some of the aspects of the big squad is coming back to bite us a little bit. Like, players are starting to get unsettled, not getting minutes that they want to, which is fair enough, really. But, these are all players who can play a part because inevitably someone will get injured. So, just to go off that side note, I think Ayari had a very good start to the season. He's been a little bit off form recently, but he still looks good.
That's what I said in the last part.
He also seems to have
sort of gone off a little bit.
Seems to have stolen Maz's dog as well. If you look on Instagram, so we need to have a welfare.
He's got taste,
check.
Jack. He's got taste.
Get a welfare check on Rufio right now. And
wait, he's man marking him. He's man marking his dog.
Exactly.
He's got him like a chokehold. I was like,
I know. And then. And then the other midfield option is probably Matt O'Reilly, who I've actually quite liked in the last few games. I don't think he's been too bad. I think it was a bit of an odd decision for him to come off against Brentford, and a bit of an odd decision for him to not start at Villa, which I presumed was the reason that he was taken off against Brentford. But there you go. Maybe Herzler is seeing something. And we also got a bizarre, surprise appearance from Jakob Moder as well at Aston Villa. They haven't had for a while.
Jack, I said on the last one, if I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Look, I think that's just Moder's in a weird territory for me. Look, I think he was potentially going to be a very good player. He's had his injury problems, and we'll see where he ends up. I think it's quite clear that the club have kind of indicated that he's not part of the plans anymore to move him on, which makes, and look, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's best for his career if he probably moves on somewhere else with all the midfield options we have. But for me, that just seemed really weird to bring him on with the wealth of talent that we've got, or even keep people on. I just didn't understand that move for him not to be available in the squad for not even making an appearance. The last appearance he made was away at home to Liverpool in the League Cup. For him to just mysteriously come on was a bit of a puzzling one for me. I don't know what Fabian saw. Obviously, he saw something in the tactics. But yeah, there's been some strange moves like that where players, will just suddenly appear for no reason. I mean, Enciso's being one of those who's just suddenly randomly, seems to have come back from,
the starting lineup every week.
Yeah, I know. And it's come from the brink of and don't get me wrong, I think he's been really, really good in the last few weeks. So I've got no real complaints about it, but it's some of this team selection stuff is a bit odd where, there were rumours probably end of November, he's going out on loan, he's not part of the manager's plans at the moment.
And now he's staying.
To, one pretty good cameo against Palace where he looked like he wanted it a bit more. To play in the under-21s, that was against Anderlecht.
A couple of days before.
Yeah, and it was and then he's back in the team. Some of these decision makings are getting a little bit more Robert De Zerbi or Graham Potter where suddenly, a lot more Graham Potter where players just mysteriously make appearances or then they disappear when we know they don't really have a future. Because, not to get on this a tangent about this, but I am, so I don't really care. I remember when funnily enough, Arsenal, when we played Arsenal and Mopé scored the winner in lockdown, it was announced that Charlotto was not going to renew his contract and was going to leave in a matter of days. Yet he's starting against Arsenal. And I sort of feel like that's the thing with Jakob Moder. And I don't think he's a bad player and I get him out of the club, but it's quite obvious that he's going to move on. What benefit does that have him being in the team? That was a weird one. Not to do some more Villa review, but that was and because that's of course another midfield option. Maybe he can make a surprise appearance. I don't know. I'm not really sure what's going through Fabian's mind at the moment.
There's a lot of chop and change. I said this in the last pod, Jack. My only sort of criticism of Herzler at the moment is I just want to see a bit of continuity, especially in that midfield partnership. I want to just see, the same personnel. I know, obviously, barring injuries, that's out of his control. But when everyone's fit, I do want to see a bit of continuity from him because, all this chopping and changing, I don't think he does it. It was like when De Zerbi couldn't decide between Steele and Verbruggen, and it was just mate, just make your mind up. Just pick one of them. Don't
as well
do all this 1 and 2 thing.
I think he's done once again. I think I discussed it in the Fulham pod. He's done the thing that a lot of European managers do, which is shit themselves when they have more than one game in a week. Which is, they see that the team played on Friday night, then Monday night, and then again on Saturday. They see that as a really busy schedule. And yes, it is a busy schedule, but that's what the Premier League's all about. That's what English football's all about. It's about busy schedules. And you've only got to look down the leagues and see that a lot of these players, I went to watch Whitehawk and they were playing I didn't, bad example, but, Lewis.
They played a half of football.
Yeah, the better side of football. Lewis were playing games on Boxing Day, the Saturday or 2 days later, and then again on New Year's Day. That's 3 games in 6 days. I'm saying the Premier League is obviously a lot more intense, so you need, but I think this is what English football is about. So to chop and change so chaotically all the time is getting a bit odd. in these
Yeah,
periods.
no, that's been my only little criticism of Hurstler, and obviously there's other stuff as well, of course. But that was one of the main things I took away from that Villa game. It was like there's a lot of rotation, and it's a bit of a weird one. But just quickly before we get on to score prediction, let's quickly talk about Valentin Barker because we mentioned about Enciso. Potentially, well, he was meant to go out on loan. Now it looks like he's going to stay. Apparently, he will only leave. I read earlier that if it's a permanent transfer, that's the only reason. That was the only reason he'll leave in January. And then obviously Valentin Barco has been recalled from Sevilla. And was it Jack you told me earlier? He's been linked with
there
Porto?
seems to be a lot of reports that he's going on loan with an obligation to buy at Porto, from some quite good sources. Like it's not just your usual The Sun or shite like that. It's
Sport Bible.
or Sport Bible, get that in. Sacked in the morning, Ben. Podcast been slagging off Sport Bible. There's been some reports that he's going for less than we bought him. Will be the obligation to buy.
Yeah,
and it does seem.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, I mean, who knows if it's true?
It's just not in our nature to do that, though.
It's not in our
Tony
nature.
Bloom would not like a. Was he 20, 21? No,
unless there's 19. But unless there is something that we're not seeing that the club are seeing as well. That look, at the end of the day, I don't think. While he looked like he had a really, really good cross on him, he looked like he was dangerous going forward. He wasn't a very good left back in the few games he did play for us. Admittedly, that was throwing him into a baptism of fire. But
if we play with wing backs, Jack,
exactly.
Wing backs in Hurstler's system,
exactly,
he could really suit that.
And exactly, and it seems to me maybe there's like an attitude thing, maybe it's that I don't know because he's gone to Seville and he to be quite frankly not. Well, I don't think he's really lit the world alight. I don't think he's done anything on loan at Seville.
I think he played only a handful of games.
So he's only played a handful of games. So don't really know what's going on there. It's a bit of a strange one though because there's so much hype about getting him. He was like the most bought player on Football Manager. We were competing with like Man City, Arsenal. But then once again, this is a little bit what I alluded to further earlier on in the podcast about certain players that we're only getting them because the big clubs aren't taking a punt on them. Because at the end of the day, if he wants to go to if Man City want him, and he will go to Man City. So there's some odd going on in the transfer market. I do. Well, this is going to sound like I'm criticising the club here. I do wonder if the club are sort of, if we're going towards a lot of players just seem to come in and have no sort of belief that they'll ever feature in the first team. That we're almost becoming like can we get this guy and move him on? And I do worry that that's what the transfer model is sort of becoming. That we're not actually developing players for the first team, but we're developing players to move them on. I don't know, man. That's a weird one.
No. Do you know what? I agree with you. And especially, I just use the goalkeepers as an example. You look at Rushworth, you look at Beadle, you look at Walton back in the day. You look at, that's like 3 or 4 keepers there.
Sherpen's a weird one.
Yeah, Sherpen,
we spent millions on Sherpen. And yet he looks like he was never, I mean, he made one first team appearance away in the cup, but it looks like he will never has even been in the first team plans. And this is really good. It gives us loads of options. I think Rushworth and Beadle are different because they've come up through academies, or we've had a look at them from other academies, and I think we've sort of looked at developing the player a lot more, and that makes a lot more sense to me. But like some of these players, Simmer, another one, we brought him in from Sparta Prague for millions again, and he just seems to be out on loan without any future coming in.
Really
I'm not suggesting these players.
I think Tony Bloom he's obviously a gambler, isn't he? His day job was being a poker player. And I feel like he loves to take a gamble. So he's like, do you know what? Let's gamble on this player. They're either going to become a Caicedo or a Baleba, or they're going to be, a Simmer or a Sherpen. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's no in between. There's like either you go that way or you go that way. And he's happy to take a gamble on it.
And I think just more on the transfers, just as a whole. Like, I just think there's been some weird rumours coming around this January. I think Evan Ferguson's situation doesn't really make any sense to me. We're looking at sending him on loan to Fulham like they're a lower team than us. Like, Fulham are above us and competing with us for Europe. And if he goes and Welbeck gets injured, which, shock and surprise, he has, we now have to rely on Evan Ferguson, who's also injured. So for me, I don't really understand what's going on. Are we selling him onto a big club? Are we not rating him anymore? I think there's some weird stuff going on, and I think we've got a bloated squad. And I think one thing Potter, always credit him for being very good with it. He was very emphatic that he'd never wanted a bloated squad. He wanted his group of players, which was probably about 25 players, and he wanted to work with them. And I don't know, there's just some strange goings on at the club at the moment.
We're Stranger things, Jack.
Well, I think we're in a bit of a crossroads time for the club, if that makes sense. We need
it's a transitionary period a little bit.
Well, this is it. I mean, just to not thrash out old stuff, but we seem to be talking not so much about the Arsenal game, but the club as a whole. But I think the Hersler, a lot of people are on his back at the moment. I need to go on Twitter and saying, we're not looking at getting to Europe. Is this season a transitionary season to sort of go beyond to a different model? We brought in players which are they ready? Who knows? Because they've not really had Premier League experience. But I don't know. I think this is a very transitionary season. I think people are going to have patience if they do want to see the fruits from this. Or are we just going... I don't know. I don't really know what we want to do with the club. Do we want to go and win titles? Do we want to, or are we quite happy to be where we are? I don't know. I mean, obviously they want to go on and win titles.
I think... Yeah, I think finally, just to wrap up on this, just because I'm just conscious of time as well. Yeah. But just to wrap up on it, I feel like with regards to Bloom's vision, what I think is a bit sort of mixed signals for me was at the beginning of the season, he was like, I want to go for Europe. We want to make a European push. Obviously spent a lot of money, 200 million plus in the transfer market. And that sort of gives you signals we're pushing for Europe, potentially Champions League even. But then obviously we get a very young manager and then, things go really, really well at the start. Now it's starting to go, he's had a bit of a rough patch. But yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of sort of, your expectations start really high. Then they've now gone a bit down because of our current form. And I just feel like we just need to be happy. Like even at the beginning of the season, when we did our predictions, we said we'd be happy with, 8th?
Yeah.
We said 7th or 8th.
I think I said 10th.
Yeah, 10th. Yeah. I think you said 10th, yeah. So I feel like we've got lost in the good start of the season.
Yeah,
big such a good start. We were all like, we've just that expectation is just raised now.
I think it's
a bit of a false thing.
What's not helping is that like some other smaller clubs similar size to us, or Forest, similar, and I think Forest are a much bigger club than us, by the way, but like in stature, but similar range outside the top 6. A lot of them are doing very, very well. You've got Forest, Fulham, Bournemouth, all pushing, but they're only a couple of points behind us, or in front of us even. So it'll be interesting to see what sort of comes out of this window and how the rest of the season goes, because I think we need to get points on the board to stop us going down first. I mean, like let's be like, the first aim for me every season is always get 40 points, like no matter what. And then we can start talking about other ambitions. And luckily under like the Zerbi Europe season, we had that 40 points wrapped up by end of February. So, that was fine. But I think we need to sort of get ourselves through this bad period, maybe get some people back and then kind of see where we can go from there. But yeah, it's a bit of an interesting time. This January, I think, is going to be an interesting period, and especially against Arsenal. Great team.
Yeah, some big games. Yeah, big games. Talking of Arsenal, you were a bit pessimistic earlier, Jack, but after talking for 28 minutes, do you feel more positive to give us a score prediction?
Yeah, I've done a lot of talking in this. I think I missed out on that Villa podcast, didn't I? And a lot to say. Last time. Yeah. I'm going to go with 2-2. We'll go 2-2.
Ooh, so not you said you weren't very optimistic.
No, but you can't. I can't end this and go like, oh yeah, we're going to lose. Like, how miserable as fuck is that? Yeah, like I'm now going to be positive after I've had a bit of a moan up. I think we've still got a lot of individual quality in the side that can damage Arsenal. We saw that in August. We've got individual quality in the side. There's no reason why we can't be looking at this at a potential point. You look at Villa, a great moment of individual quality from both Lamptey and Pedro. Look, we've got great players in the team. They just need to be given the freedom and the opportunity to score. And I love that Villa performance because it was just like, individual brilliance, everybody going for it. It shows battle and hard work. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to stop I think the Palace performance, we weren't hardworking. We were lethargic. We looked like we were expecting to win. Against Villa, we were battling. We came back against what is potentially it's a Champions League side, and we got a point. So yeah, I don't know. For me, yeah, I'm going to be optimistic and go, look, I think some of our individual quality will shine. I'm going to go 2-2, and I'm going to say Mitoma is going to be back in the goals.
Oh, love it. I'm also going to go with the draw. I'm going to go with a... Do you know what? I actually like 2-2 as well, actually. And not to copy you, but I actually do think it'll be a high-scoring draw. Because I feel like they've got some big players missing. They've got, obviously, Timber at right back. I'm going to be interested to see who they're going to play at right back. Obviously, Rice hasn't been starting. So, he's usually, when he plays the top of his game, big player for them. Obviously, they have got quality. Odegaard, Martinelli, Jesus... Even that Enwanari, he's a up-and-coming, really good player for his age. He's ridiculous. So, yeah, they've got a lot of players that can hurt us, as we know. And defensively, they're very solid as well. So, it's going to be a really, really tough afternoon.
I think the reason for the high...
I'm confident.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the reason for the high-scoring draw is because they've got defensive problems at the moment. Where they haven't got, everybody available. But they've still got great individual quality up front. So
100%.
Yeah,
yeah, no, there you go.
The same brainwave.
Listen, Jack, It's always a pleasure. I don't know why I said we. But Jack, it's always a pleasure. Never a chore. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully we'll have Ben back for the post-match, Arsenal. I shall see you there, Jack. I will be in West Lower. Where are you going to be?
West Upper, where I always am, mate.
Oh, love it.
West Upper.
I might see you around if you're about. Yeah. Let me know what you're doing before, and we can maybe catch up then. But listen, thank you everyone for listening, watching, however you're consuming this podcast. Thank you so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe. It really does mean a lot. And we shall see you hopefully after a positive result. Maybe the first win, Jack, in 7 games.
Maybe. Who knows? Let's believe. As Cher famously said, believe.
What a way to end the podcast in a bit.